So you're getting divorced and you need to find a lawyer. One question we get asked a lot is, how do you choose a good lawyer for your case? So today's episode is going to be about what questions to ask a lawyer and what questions to ask yourself and the steps you need to take. Welcome, Mum.
Hello, Laura. Hello, everyone.
Speaking of lawyers, you are a lawyer with over 35 years experience, and we are talking about choosing a lawyer today. So it's not necessarily technically a legal question, but just a reminder to anybody who is listening today, please remember that this is legal education. It is not legal advice. Always get your own independent legal advice before making any decisions. So with that said, also I want to point out today we are doing this via video because we've been told that you've got to put it on YouTube with video. So here we are. You'll have to excuse us because we're a little bit nervous about it. But anyway, let's get into it, Mum.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Laura Furiosi, divorced mother of 3, and I'm here with my mother, Lynette Galvin, with 35 years experience in family law. You're listening to the Divorce Course podcast. Through our candid discussions, we hope to help you through your divorce or de facto separation. We will be answering the most commonly asked questions and covering the stages and steps that you will face on your way to freedom.
What are the first things people should do before they even ask these questions that we've come up with? What are the things people should be looking for before they even go and talk to a lawyer and ask these questions?
When you're separating, you haven't really been thinking about it and looking up lawyers before separation. So you're usually looking for a lawyer in the heat of the moment when you're feeling like when everything's quite frantic. Sometimes what you're really looking for is experience and ability. You're also looking for someone whose personality meshes with yours. I think they're the most two important things. That's what you're looking for in a lawyer. Ability and probably affordability as well.
Right. Another number one thing I think you've said before, that when people ask for recommendations for lawyers, the normal response is, I can't recommend one, but I can recommend one not to go to. So have a very good rap, to be fair. But there is a place for them to put it on then LinkedIn reviews and things like that. So having a look at that might be helpful as well before you ask questions.
Yeah, but remember, every court case or every case, the lawyer is acting for one person and acting against the other person. And sometimes those reviews that might pop up might not actually be from their clients. So just remember that.
Oh, that's
you're right. If you ask your friends or someone who's been divorced, if they have someone they recommended that was good, that was approachable, knew the law and was affordable, then that would be a good place to start.
All right. So you've narrowed it down, you've asked around, you looked at reviews. Does location matter?
Not really, although it's less rare these days, but in the old days, it used to be rare, in the old days when I started, be rare to have perhaps an accredited family law specialist living on the outskirts of a city or in a rural area. I don't think that's as common now, but I had a client who said to me in 1994, if your lawyer's so good, what's she doing working where she's working? So there is a bit of a snob value from getting inner city lawyers, but remember, they're paying the higher rents. So if you've got a good quality lawyer who's moving out of town, I don't know that location matters as much. They do have to come in for hearings and things, but most of the early court appearances, like we're doing now, they're done remotely.
And that's a good point. And we do talk about saving costs with a lawyer, and we do talk about location in regards to they can charge you for their travel for trial. So if you do choose a lawyer that is close to a court, then you'll be charged less for travel. But they're probably charging you more because their rent's probably more. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you've done your research, you've asked around, and then you book in. Now, do people just go and see one lawyer, or do you recommend going and interviewing 2 or 3? Is that a thing?
Well, it is sort of a thing. There are a lot of firms that will offer a quick 15-minute chat with the lawyer that would help you gauge whether that lawyer is someone you would then go on to want to have an initial appointment with. And after that free 15-minute, most firms do an hour of a reduced rate interview where you kind of size each other up and see if that lawyer's for you. And then if that works, then you go into the full cost agreement and the full fees. So it's expensive to go to a number of reduced fee 1 hour interviews, but it's not expensive to ring up and chat to them. So I think if you've got yourself a little panel that you've worked out, the first step would be ring the office, see if you could have a chat with them. Sometimes if they're in court, you could understand that. But if they just don't normally, if the receptionist says, oh no, they don't talk to people unless they've made an appointment, that might not be the lawyer for you.
Now, that's a valid point. And I've just realised we haven't actually outlined why it's a good idea to make sure you get the right fit of a lawyer.
Yeah.
Because some people might just go, well, a lawyer's a lawyer. What's the big deal? But have you seen people make bad choices in lawyers and it have certain outcomes that maybe we need to let everyone be aware of? Because it's probably their first rodeo, unless you're on the second round or third. And there's no shame in that. But why is it important for them to quiz these lawyers and make sure they find the right fit?
Okay, so there's a couple of reasons. One is family law is quite a specialised area, and it might not be that lawyer's expertise. So you need to check and see how much of the law they know. And if they don't know enough law and your ex gets a lawyer who knows family law inside out, I can tell you from experience that an experienced lawyer will run rings around a newbie or someone who does general law and only a little bit of family law. So you need someone who can properly represent your case. And if it's a cheaper lawyer that you've found, but they aren't across the family law, you may end up losing more in your overall property settlement than you would if you'd stumped up for the Dura lawyer. So they've got to have the expertise. The second thing is they have to have the right attitude about costs for you. That's important. So you need to size them up at the beginning. It's really hard to talk about costs with someone who's just come in to see you. But if you don't have that conversation about costs, or if your lawyer doesn't talk about costs, you should raise it with these ones that you're seeing and say, how do you bill? How often do you bill? And how much do you need in trust? And all of that, because people who don't want to talk about the money are often the ones lawyers who leave it till the end of the case to do your bill, and then you're absolutely gobsmacked about how much they've charged you for phone calls and so forth. So expertise, affordability, and then you need a lawyer who's approachable for you because you're going through hell and it will get worse. And they're going to have to tell you things you don't want to hear. You're going to say things to them that they don't want to hear probably. And so the relationship in that first interview is probably the best it's going to be. And then it's like strap yourself in for the court ride, because there will be some hard truths that will probably need to be said to you. So I think it's that. Affordability, ability, approachability.
Yeah. And if you get it wrong, changing lawyers, is that hard?
It's not hard as much as it is expensive.
Right.
And particularly if if your new lawyer then has to go back and learn the file, they have to read it all again. And that could cost you a couple of $1,000s, depending how far through the case you are. Also, if you change a lawyer because you don't like the advice they give, just remember that you vetted your lawyer at the beginning and ascertained they knew about family law. So before you ditch your lawyer, maybe get a second opinion before you change and say, look, is this true? Is this what's happening? Am I being wrong here? And it might be that you just don't want to hear what the lawyer's got to say.
Now, we've done a great episode on that. It's called Pep Talk, and it's all about if things aren't going your way or if your lawyer's not listening, maybe you need to go get a second opinion and how you can do that. So go and listen to that episode. And we also have another one called 5 Red Flags for Lawyers. So go and listen to that episode, because they're the telltale signs that maybe the lawyer isn't a good one. But let's get into the questions then, Mum.
So when we say good one, we mean a good fit for you.
Yes. Because you nail on the head. It is a very hard time in your life. It's very emotional. And if it is about kids, even if it is not about kids and it's about the rest of your superannuation, financial future, whatever, you need somebody who's going to understand you. And just like hairdressers and GPs, everybody finds a GP that works for them and they might not work for somebody else. So you do need to have that right fit, because, you are going to be really hanging on to those lawyers like your superhero in some ways, if they're taking you to trial, etc. as well. So let's go through some of these questions, Mum.
Okay.
A lawyer. Firstly, you think it's a really good idea to find out about their hourly rate?
I do. I think that's very important. Too cheap, and I'd be nervous. Top end rates, and I've heard some ridiculous figures, Laura, even some into 4 figures per hour. You need to be sure you can afford that lawyer. And some of the lawyers, in my opinion, are charging more because they've climbed up the ladder in their firm, which may not be a reflection of their ability with the clients, but may well be a reflection of how much they're billing. I suggest they wouldn't miss you. So you are going to be charged in usually 6-minute increments. So if you ring up your lawyer and they're $1,000 an hour, which I can't imagine, then it's going to cost you $100, even if it's only a 2-minute talk. So you need to talk to them about costs.
Another episode that we've done on that, we go through all the cost fees that are listed on the family law website, the FCFCO website, and they're kind of like the base rate. Most lawyers pay more, but it is a good episode to go listen to so you get a basic understanding of how much everything is charged. Just even for photocopying, it's only like $1.25 a page.
Yes.
So
outrageous.
So just get your head around that sort of stuff. Okay, the next question, Mum, is you ask if they'll do an itemised account. Why is that important?
You need to know exactly what you're being charged for rather than them sending you a bill for $2,000 and you don't know what it was. So you want the itemised accounts and you want them frequently. So see if the firm sends out bills on a weekly or fortnightly basis, because when you get your bill, even if it is high, you can look at it and you can go, oh gosh, I didn't realise it was going to cost me that much to send 2 documents through. And we give you some strategies how to keep that cost down. So you're across it, you can budget for it. And some people, if you know you're getting an itemised account and you know you're a bit broke one week, you can stall for a week and then do the thing that's going to cost you money.
Okay, so that's
it educates you. Yeah, it educates you about costs and helps you keep an eye on it because it can get out of proportion.
Because there are some people that don't get their lawyer's bill till the end, and it's like whack in the face. So
yes, when you're in court now, the court is requiring lawyers to give their clients a costs letter before every court event. And that's great because it causes the client to then they have to look at it and they go, holy cow, or okay, I'm on track, I can manage it. Because I think the stats are, Laura, that 39% of people in the final hearing are self-represented, but only 25% of people on the first day in court are self-represented. So some people are spending all their money up front and not keeping enough for the actual hearing. Yeah,
it's terrible.
Careful. It's just like any sensible budgeting thing.
Yeah, I guess that sounds easier said than done. When you're stressed out, you're probably packing, you're probably selling your house. Completely your world's upside down. But on top of that, keep an eye on your bills. Okay, so you're asking them hourly rates. How often do they bill? Do they do an itemised account? Now, this one we love, and a lot of our listeners and members love this. Do you do step in, step out? What does that mean, and how do you ask, and why?
Okay, so step in, step out is a way where the lawyers just come in for the hard parts where you need them. So if there are court documents to be drafted, the lawyer might do that for you, or they might attend on the first hearing date, but they might not attend at the mediation. So a step in, step out is where you work side by side with the lawyer, doing what you can and only using them for the work that really needs a lawyer's touch, so to speak. So I'm thinking of disclosure and stuff like that where it could cost a mint doing letters back and forwards about this letter, or I want this bank statement or that bank statement. Now, I'm not saying your lawyer doesn't have to know everything. They do. You need to have lawyers who aren't, I guess it's ego, and sometimes they're just overcautious. And some lawyers will go, oh, no, I don't do that. It's the full service or nothing. So you might as well find that out at the start.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll start off paying a lawyer and then you want to change to step in, step out and you can't maybe.
And look, when people start off, they probably, and we've seen this a lot with our listeners and members, we see these people go out, they say, I want the full service, I'm too upset, I can't deal with it. So I just want the lawyer to deal with it and I'm just going to stick my head in the stand over here. But then either their money slowly dries up or they get more confidence and they realize, wait, I can do a lot of this myself. I do want to save some money, but then it's too late because their lawyer's already.
That's exactly right.
So if you're listening today and you're like, no, I really do just want the full service, just keep that thought in the back of your mind that maybe a step in, step out potential option in the future would be worthwhile. So find out from your lawyer if they will. Now, the next question is a basic one, and we've already talked about it. Do they know about the family law? But more importantly, and particularly in Australia, do they know about the new changes to the Family Law Act? So why is that important? Yeah. Why do they need to ask that question?
Well, it's like just a little test. If a lawyer doesn't know about them by now, and these orders started, these changes commenced on the 6th of May, 2024. We've been knowing that they've been coming since October 2023. If your lawyer doesn't know about those and isn't across those, that's probably a big red flag for you. It's the changes on the 6th of May and the central practice direction. Those two things working together make, in my respectful opinion, make the Family Law Act much better, the whole process much better. But if your lawyer has kind of missed that and isn't across those things, then you're missing out on that benefit of the amendments to the Act. So that's a good little test for them.
We have had some people write in and say, my lawyer says that the new Family Law Act and the new changes means nothing. Is that a red flag?
Well, it's certainly contrary to my view, and I've been around a while, and anyone else that I've spoken to, and I've been before the Chief Justice, and that wasn't his view either. The changes are significant, and we're seeing a real change in how the court deals with cases and pushing them through. If your lawyer isn't across that, you might find yourself getting hit for costs, for instance, if you file something late.
Okay.
So you want someone who's current in their training.
So we talked about, do you know the changes to the Family Law Act, but also you mentioned already the central practice directions, and that is this big thick book that you love. I don't know if you've got it anywhere, but you love it.
Of course I have, and highlight it and love it.
Recommend our listeners and members have that copy, even if you've got a lawyer, so you can follow the procedures and practice directions.
Yeah.
But why is it important, Mum, and how do they ask a lawyer if they know about the central practice directions? Because I'm just thinking about it right now. And I remember being in that room on my first meeting with the lawyer. There is no way I would have been able to even ask that question. So how do you ask it without offending them?
I don't think you care about offending them. What's the point? You're interviewing them for a job, and that job is to be your lawyer. So don't feel you'll offend them. Just say to them, are you familiar with the Family Law Case Management document? And how long do you think each step will take? And then you've got the document here. We've got a little plan in it, and it's got some timings. So just explore their familiarity with it.
Yeah.
Some of the really good things in here are about the behaviour of the lawyer to the court and to other lawyers. And it really requires you to be courteous, not make your family law molehill into a big mountain. It's actually a real guide, and the direction, it's a direction from the court. It's central, and the 4 principles on it are absolutely going to, if they're followed by the lawyer, will help your experience be much smoother and more quickly through.
Okay.
So
we'll
just ask them.
We'll put a link to those in the show notes now, just to reference their WA is different. And if you're in a completely different.
It's not much different though. I've read WAs and they do have a very similar case outline. They've got a direction.
Okay. If you are in a different country, maybe go and see if there's something similar, but we'll put a link in the show notes, and you can also find it on the FCFCOA website, which stands for Family and Federal. No, you say it.
Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia.
Amazing acronyms. They're amazing. Anyway, you can find it on that website, or you can go to our show notes page on www.thedivorcecourse.com.au/blog. Now, okay, so you ask them about the central practice directions, and without offending them, you can say, are you familiar with that? How long do you think each step will take? So then you're asking a genuine question, not really. It doesn't look as bad, but like you said, why bother? Why worry about it?
You're giving me a lesson in tact, Rose.
The next question is, will they talk to you for 15 minutes? I guess that's not really a question you ask them, but it is a test.
Need to start doing your disclosure but have no idea where to start? Feeling overwhelmed about mediation coming up? Or just trying to deal with negotiating with a manipulative ex? Then you need to go to thedivorcecourse.com.au to go to the free resources section where you can get a mediation checklist, a disclosure checklist, a word salad, read a letter like a pro checklist, and also a before you go checklist. Get ahead of the game and be organised and ready, as this handy checklist, along with the accompanying episodes of the podcast, will be perfect for you. All you need to do is go to thedivorcecourse.com.au and go to the free resource section and download the free checklists today.
The next question is, will they talk to you for 15 minutes? I guess that's not really a question you ask them, but it is a test.
Yeah. Of course, the lawyers are busy. They go to court. They've got other clients. You're not, if you join them, you're not going to be their only client. But there are some lawyers who have such barriers between them and the public that you might think that they're going to be inaccessible to you when you need them.
Yeah.
So that if you can't get past the secretary for a quick chat to, sound them out, then that to me would be a red flag. If they're in court or something and they'll ring you back the next day, that's fine. Give them that opportunity. But if there is absolutely, Mr. Such and Such doesn't see anyone unless they make an appointment and they've got to pay, then you've got to think about whether that ethos in the firm is what you want.
And another big question that needs to be asked, and I have no idea how you would approach this either, but it's important, is will this lawyer tell you the hard truths when you don't want to hear it? So how do you ask the question? Because if your lawyer doesn't, why is it important that you need a lawyer who's willing to tell you the hard truths even when you don't want to hear it?
Well, because your negotiations and potentially court trial to get the outcome according to law, right? Not according to what you want, according to law. And if you go all the way to trial for a trial judge to say, no, you can't have that, you've spent an awful lot of money. What you need is your lawyer to be strong enough and confident enough to say, look, I understand this is important to you, but you will never win this bit and you're best to settle now. And those hard truths can only come from a lawyer who's confident in their knowledge of the Family Law Act, who hasn't got one eye on the how many dollars we'll make if we get you all the way to trial. What you need is a lawyer who is not too soft, but someone who is settlement focused and get your case finalised and according to law with the least expense possible and as quickly as possible, which is really the core principle. Do I sound like I'm preaching?
Sounds like a miracle wish list that everybody wants for a lawyer, but I don't know how often they find them. Just quite
entitled to it. You're entitled to have the right lawyer. This is big money. You're paying money and you don't even get a swimming pool for your money, or you don't get a new kitchen. You get nothing. You get words.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm making fun of lawyers, and I know. And just to be clear, Mum isn't taking on clients, so don't think this is that. But yeah. So look, you're right. You're not getting anything out of it other than the service to get you to the end. And I have seen some quotes that have said, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how long you've spent with your barrister, the lawyer, or the judge. At the end of the day, when your case is over, they're gone and you've got to live with the consequences. And you don't want the consequences to be you've just given all your money to the lawyer and the barrister and you've got an outcome you don't want. So I have seen another one that said in a property settlement, I think we put a question out to our members, what's something you wish someone had told you? And it was something like, don't divide your money up 4 ways, only divide it up 2 ways. And they were talking about you're giving some money to your lawyer and some money to your ex and some money to your ex's lawyer. So, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I understand. We do it in defense of family law. I mean, unless my whole life's been a lie, we do promote a service, and we are there to help people through this icky stage. The big risk we run, I think, lawyers run, is that it becomes a bit routine for them. And so they just talk at you, and you may not always understand it. And they're very professional about it. And to them, it's cookie cutters and, move along, but they're not empathetic with you. On the other hand, some very empathetic lawyers aren't strong enough to control you or to give you the advice that you need to hear to save you expenses. So is it the case, Rose? Am I just saying that are we just saying that you need a lawyer you can trust? And the only way you can find that out is talking to them.
Yeah. Because you've got to trust them to a degree because you don't know what you don't know. And you've got to trust that your lawyer knows what you don't know about when it comes to law, because you're stepping into an arena you've never spent any time in. And those lawyers, they're there all the time, so it's no big deal to them. So, yeah, you need to find a lawyer you can trust. And I like that you touched on the empathy there because, yes, you want someone who's empathetic, but you also don't want someone that's so empathetic that they end up becoming like your bestie and your cheerleader and not someone who's reining you in when you're taking it too far. Which takes me to the next question that I think we should always ask, and is, can I bring a friend? Because talked about going to a law when I had my first meeting and I don't remember anything that was said, and I wasted like $700 just for 1 hour of me not hearing a word someone said because I was so upset. So can you bring a friend is a question.
Yes, and you must. You not must, but if you need one, bring them. Remember, you're in the driver's seat here. You are interviewing someone for the job of helping you through your divorce. I did hear a judge once say that, Mrs. Such and Such, he said to someone who was representing themselves, you wouldn't take your own appendix out, would you? You'd go to a surgeon. So you should go to a lawyer and to do the case. But the times have changed. Computers and people are very knowledgeable. Like what you don't know when you separate, you can quickly find out by listening to our podcasts and other people reading websites and stuff. So we've always operated, haven't we, Laura, on the basis that our listeners are smart. They're accomplished in their own areas, but this is a totally new wheelhouse they're stepping into. But it doesn't mean that it is like you take your general anesthetic and wake up when it's over.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So basically those questions again is, what are your hourly rates, and make sure you're okay with them. How often do you bill, and find out their billing cycle. Ask them if they'll bill weekly or monthly, whatever works with you. Do you do itemized accounts? Are you going to be strong enough to tell me the truth when I don't want to hear it? Are you going to be able to offer step in, step out if I run out of money? Do you know about the new family law changes? Are you aware of the central practice directions, and in a nice way so that they're not thinking you're being too rude? How long do you think each step is going to take for me? And will you do the 15-minute call at all? That's the question. And can I bring a friend? So they're the kind of questions you need to be quizzing the lawyer. I guess another question would be, what's your preferred communication? So you need to think about it for yourself, because there's no right or wrong answer for the lawyer, but it is based on what you want. So if you prefer email, then you want a lawyer who wants to do email. If they can't stay on top of their emails and you send them an email and you don't hear back from them for a month, probably not a good idea. So find out what their preferred communication is. Is it phone? Is it email? Is it meetings, face-to-face, Zoom? Ask them those kind of questions, because that is really help. But then you have to ask yourself some questions, Mum. And those questions are, do you like them? You don't have to be best friends with them, but do you like them? Because you don't want to be in a room with someone who's also going to be in the room with your ex, and you're sitting in a room with two people that you might not like. You need someone that you get along with to a degree.
Absolutely. There has to be a kind of synergy there. And in fact, I used to use those first initial appointments to see if the client was my sort of person. If they were really like aggressive or something, which is not my style, is very clear that I'm not aggressive or show-offy, then I would say perhaps there's another lawyer that might suit you and direct them away from the firm, because if you're not a good fit with the lawyer, the whole road's going to be very rocky. You bring a friend, you sit there, in a way you're interviewing them, but they're also considering whether they're going to accept the job. So you need to be able to like them well enough. And I think the question is really, are they professional? Do you know, if you have a doctor do some surgery, you might say, oh, he's an amazing doctor. And then you say, and his bedside manner is good, or and he's crap as a bedside manner. For this lawyer, you really need someone who has just that right balance of empathy and firmness and clarity. They need to be clear with you.
And you need to like them. You just need to like them as well. So I think in the end, these questions whilst they sound very basic, I know for a fact a lot of people just choose a lawyer and just go with them. And then they come up with problems and then they want to change and then it's a big stress. So please don't put yourself in that situation. If you're listening to this now and you haven't chosen a lawyer yet, you are allowed to have a look around. You're allowed to shop around, and you may be glad that you did, because it can have a huge effect on the outcome of the case.
Yep. And it's no different to getting a quote for that swimming pool you're not going to have or the new kitchen. It's not just the quote. You don't go for the first person you meet to do that job. So feel free, I think, to take up a couple of lawyers if they have a reduced fee initial meeting until you get the one that you're comfortable with, or the free 15 minutes until you find someone you're comfortable with. Yeah, because changing lawyers along the track is a problem. It's tricky. It's very tricky. So, and it costs more. So get it right at the front before you sign up for that costs agreement, and to save you money right from the beginning.
Now, we've got our community group for our course members. You can go on there and you can recommend lawyers, or you can ask, hey, I'm in this state, do you recommend one? And we're also always looking for our lovely listeners like you to send us some lawyers that are working well for you, because we do get asked a lot about which lawyer we recommend. So the more you guys tell us who you think are good, the better we can provide for everybody else. So please shoot us an email if you've got a good lawyer at thedivorcecourspodcast@gmail.com. And if you are looking for the questions, we're going to create the little question sheet that you can take along with you. And you can find that on our Patreon account, and you can download that and you can go along and take that with you. Or, of course, if you're doing our course, we've got a whole lesson and modules, etc., to help you with that first couple of steps to get you started. Yes. Does it matter, Mum? And this is what we always do at the end. Does it matter to choose your lawyer differently if you've got an amicable, an avoidant, a high conflict, or a manipulative? Does it matter? Do you need to change your questioning to the lawyer for the different type?
Don't think so. If you could flag that you think your ex fits into one of these categories, but it would be unlikely that a lawyer only has amicable or a lawyer only has high conflict people. So if they're experienced in family law, they know all of those types, and they're confident with short marriages, long marriages, de facto marriage, like all of those things. So you don't really need to tailor this approach in that regard, but you should check and make sure you're not engaging a high conflict lawyer. Okay. Just watch that, because if they start bragging about how good they are and how many cases they've won, it's like you may find yourself paying for letters that don't really advance your case, but they're firing off emails and you get charged every time. You need someone who's mature enough to be not reactive when the other side gets grumpy. In fact, the more bad behavior from the other side in breach of the central practice direction, the more calm you want your lawyer to be and the more firm you want your lawyer to be. You don't want them having a fight at your expense.
Right. So definitely be aware of that. And I guess that if you go in and you talk to people about this and you really quiz them, you will get your head around what kind of person they are to a degree. And again, go to that episode. I'll put it in the show notes, the red flags and choosing a lawyer. Unfortunately, sometimes if your ex chooses a bad lawyer, that can be problematic, but you can't really choose a lawyer for your ex, can you?
No, and you don't want to match your ex's lawyer. People do tend to find the lawyers that resonate with them. And if your ex is nasty and mean and manipulative, controlling and high conflict, then she may choose, or he may choose a lawyer that suits that personality. Oh yeah. So you may end up with both of them against you and your perfectly reasonable self and your wonderful and reasonable lawyer. And together you can withstand that. Raj.
Yeah. And again, and I think it's a good reminder to let you all know that if you are at the beginning of the process and you think that going to see a lawyer is somehow going to mean you're immediately going to court, remember that that's not the case. And seeing a lawyer, as we talk about it in our do-it-yourself course, the DIY Divorce Blueprint, we talk about how important it is to go and see a lawyer right at the beginning to know where you stand, know what you're entitled to. And then you can do a lot of it yourself. And you don't have to go to court. You can do mediation, you can negotiate with letters, and you can have a consent order and everything all sorted out without ever having to go to court. So please don't think lawyers mean court. And Mum, what's the biggest thing that people's exes say that they need to ignore when it comes to choosing a lawyer?
Biggest thing is when your ex says, let's not involve lawyers. That is such a red flag, because you might go, yes, let's not pay for people, and then you find out that the only person who hasn't got a lawyer is you, because they've already gone to see a lawyer. Sometimes the let's not get the lawyers involved is really because they have and they don't want you to know. So, yeah, it's a tricky time, guys.
Yeah, you don't have to agree to paying them lots of money into their trust account or anything. You just go and see them once, and then you can decide how you're going to proceed. But it is always good to go and find one and have one, even if you're not ready to use them yet. If you do the vetting early, then you at least know if things do go awry, you can automatically know who to call.
Yeah, that's right. I know, Laura, that you were saying you don't have to go to court. It's true. Sometimes, though, if the other person is a complete sort of problem, or you both may have perfectly legitimate points of view that needs a judge to decide, you may well end up in court. It takes two of you to settle things, but only takes one of you to drag it into court.
Yeah, which sucks.
Yes, it does. But look, honestly, with the way the court is at the moment, I think the court process is quite quick compared to how it has been in past years. And so you guys, with this focus on mediation, our listeners probably will get through probably in a third of the time it would have taken a couple of years ago. So you'll get there.
All right. So anybody who's looking for a lawyer right now, we wish you the best of luck. And knows any good lawyers out there, shoot us an email, because we are trying to compile that list, which would be helpful. And if you are a member, you know that you can jump on our community group page and go and suggest or ask as well. So thank you, Mum, for your time today. And before anybody emails us, Mum isn't doing any more representing. I know you've got your final trial ever in Melbourne soon on your birthday. You're weirdo. But please don't write in and ask if Mum can represent you. But you can have a chat with Mum. Two ways. You can become a member, which we're not open at the moment to have members yet, but go and check our website, thedivorcecourse.com.au, to see if we are open to enrollments at the time that you listen to this. The other way you can talk to Mum is if you write us a review. I don't know how you do it on YouTube, but at YouTube or Spotify or podcast or Apple Podcasts, and we go through and we choose one each month to get a free chat with Mum. So look, she is a mastermind at this stuff. She's a nerd. She reads cases all the days long. So she's a good person to have a chat to. So
you always call me a nerd.
Oh, nerd with it comes to law. But anyway, thank you, Mum, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope this recording's gone okay. Everyone said do video. I don't know why. So what do they expect us to do? Jazz hands? And I don't know. I don't get it.
We just go with the flow, darling. We'll go with the flow.
So I appreciate that you went on video, Mum, and I've only just had surgery. So I'm in my jumper, so I'm not even in appropriate clothing. Sorry, guys, but I just had surgery. So, all right. So thank you, Mum, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. We'd love to have some more subscribers. And if you're on Spotify or Apple, you can also subscribe, or you can jump on our website, and we've got heaps of free downloadable checklists to help you through these stages. And you can also jump on Patreon. Mum's done extra videos there, so that might be helpful to you if you're going through this crappy time. Sending all our love. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Mum.
Bye-bye.
If you found this podcast helpful, we'd love it if you could rate, review and subscribe. By doing so, you are spreading the word to help someone else just like you. Lynn would like to remind you that this podcast is general advice only, and you should always get legal advice in relation to your particular situation. And remember that the Australian laws may have changed since recording.